Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Feed and Focus for Remote Work and Digital Nomads podcast. My name is Shurina, and I'm a certified nutritionist, health, nutrition, brain performance, productivity coach, and just someone with a lot of passion for helping you guys to learn how to use nutrition, lifestyle, tools, and protocols to feel and look your absolute best anywhere. And today is Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. Usually on Monday, I like to talk about some aspect of motivation to help you to feel more motivation for whatever it is you need to do. So you don't wake up on Monday morning or whatever the day might be and you feel like you'd rather go back to sleep, right? With that kind of energy, when you physically feel it and then you start having those thought and emotional patterns, it's very hard to deliver great quality work. It's very hard to have a great day experience. It's very hard to have great interactions with other people, especially when part of that feeling like you'd rather go back to sleep is something I hear often these days, especially in remote teams, remote work, digital nomad scene where I'm spending a lot of time, obviously, as digital nomad and been working remotely myself for decades and getting into remote teams coaching. So burnout, that's the word that I hear often. And that's actually what prevents a lot of you guys from feeling like your most motivated and productive self. Yesterday, it was Sunday, and I took a very chill day off. I specifically designed it in a way that I didn't have to plan much, I didn't have to think of much. I could just literally sit on my ass the whole day, and the day would go according to my plan. But of course, I went to the beach. I laid out by the pool. Here in Mexico, in Playa del Carmen, we are lucky to have this available to almost anyone. I did a lot of walking. I did a little bit non-essential shopping, met up with a friend, and we had a great dinner. And then I watched a movie. I didn't watch a lot of movies, but, on Sunday, I'm like, yeah, let my brain just chill. Just like depressurize, de-stress, just let it all go down. Because the thing about motivation, guys, it is driven by a lot of brain chemicals or neurotransmitters, those molecules that are used by nerve cells to communicate between each other, to make each other act in a certain way or stop acting in a certain way, act, no act. Molecules like dopamine are specifically important for motivation, but not all people know that the receptors that accept those motivation molecules, those dopamine neurotransmitters, those receptors actually can accept only certain amount of stimulation. And after that, they start being deregulated by your nervous system. And then if you really abuse them for a long time or really overstimulate them over a long time with either, usually it happens a lot for people who use some drugs that tend to work on dopamine. But also people who never stop, just work. And when they don't work, they use that time to do something also stimulating, like engaging a lot on social media. That, by the way, is stimulation. It's not rest for your brain. Or going for some loud parties, that also very stimulative and that engages your dopamine system as well. What is not stimulative are things like spending time in nature, doing nothing, meditating, doing yoga, doing breathing exercises, just laying on the bed and staring into the ceiling. Sometimes you need those times, and if you don't schedule them intentionally, you're going to get those times, because you see, guys, your nervous system's designed that way to help you to manage your energy resources. If you didn't have that system that would cause you to take days off and time off, what would happen is you would spend all this energy, all these neurotransmitters, and at some point you physically will run out of these resources, because our energy, it's a renewable resource, but it's also finite in a sense that you can't make more and more and more of it. Our physical body and brain, they have limitations. And so one of the tasks of your brain, of your nervous system, is to make sure that you can go on long term. And one of the aspects of that is making sure that you take a rest and days off. And if you don't design for that intentionally, you're going to have a burnout. That's basically a way of your nervous system telling you, chill out, dude. You don't have resources to continue like that. That's all it is, guys. And when people say we are experiencing burnout, what they mostly are talking about is their failure, so to speak, or inability to realize that fact that they do have finite resources, and to realize that not all kinds of rest is actually restful for nervous system, and also not being able to design days in buckets, so to speak. I like the idea of buckets because then you understand you have limitations. We all have 24 hours a day, and you need to sleep enough. You need to take time of stimulation, of go mode. That's like, another bucket in your day. You need to take time to exercise. You need to take time for social connections. So all of these are time bucket for me. And that's what I found works for people who got it figured out. They allow themselves to work, for example, only that many hours and no more. They don't allow work hours to bleed into all the other hours. So let's say you have a bucket of work that is 6-7 hours, without the lunch breaks, etc. So you have that bucket and you can't extend it. If you want to go long term like a marathoner, you can't stretch this bucket. That's it. You have 24 hours a day just like everyone else. Sleep bucket, you can't shrink it. You need certain amount of sleep. When you start shrinking it, things will backfire, and at some point health consequences and things like burnout will catch up with you, right? So sleep bucket, 8 hours. Work bucket, 6-7 hours. Some people, sometimes it's 8 hours, but you need breaks in that long period of work. That is another bucket. You need to do exercise to maintain health and productivity and fitness and avoid health and burnout problems in the future. You actually do need exercise to release that tension on a physical level. So exercise bucket, you got to define it. And again, why I like the bucket concept, because it gives it physicality and constraints. Exercise, no more than that, no less than that. Over-exercising also can backfire and make you burn out more. So it's also like a bucket that got to be defined. For me, it's 2 walks, morning, night, and then purposeful exercise for 30 minutes a day. Sometimes more, depending on the intensity, but no less than that. And then social connections, right? As a social creature, neuroscientists even seriously consider this fact that our brain might have evolved to manage our social interactions. That's how important they are for our survival and thriving. So social connections, your family, your friends, connections that feel good, meaningful connections, spending meaningful time together, not on your phone, right? That's another bucket that you got to dedicate consistently time to. I recommend every day if you really want to feel good, every day, mentally and physically. So those are the buckets that you need to look into usually if you don't want to burn out and you don't want to feel on Monday morning like you need a vacation or another couple of days off. You need to have those buckets. Again, sleep bucket. It's 8 hours, no less, no matter how much work you have. You gotta accept the restrictions on your day, on your productivity. Now, if you want to do more or better, you can figure out ways how to use your time more effectively, but you can't stretch them and put them into sleep, because that over the long run, over long term, will make you less productive, less efficient. People say, but I just go. And then when I don't feel like it, when I burn out, I just take time off. But the problem is you can't manage it. Burnout comes when it wants to come and you can't plan it. So let's say you're in the middle of an important project and then burnout comes and you're not feeling like doing much and your productivity plummets and you're barely doing anything. No, not really. You're not delivering your best. And you don't have control over that unless you proactively take time off to prevent that from happening in the first place. Now, I personally don't take a lot of vacation. And the reason is why I can not take a lot of vacations and still go on is because I look at my life in those buckets and I treat my life as a marathoner. I need to go on to build my vision. And so, because to go on, I need to rest. I put my life in time buckets because all of us have time limitations. 8 hours of sleep, exercise every day for 30 minutes or to an hour, no more than that, my walks and sun exposure, my social connections, my meditation that I also notice is very important for my brain productivity in the middle of the day. In the morning, I do my meditation, and having 1 hour at night, a buffer before sleep when I just, depressurize. I allow myself to have that time when I'm still awake, not asleep, but I feel that pressure, that stress of daily activities going down. I personally really need that time. Sometimes I also combine it with my evening walk, sometimes with social interactions, obviously, that, by the way, might be restful, but also might be stressful, depending on those social interactions that you have. Now, when I'm talking about social connections, I'm talking more about restorative social connections that bring you joy. And the rest of the stuff is kind of the stressors of our life that you gotta put in other buckets, right? Not in your rest buckets. So, to cut the long story short, guys, and to give you practical tools, what you want to understand is if you want to have high motivation, like today on Monday morning, you want to manage your burnout and your time off. You got to learn how to manage your energy. And my best recipe, what I found works for most of the people, like really high profile people, high productivity people who are dedicated to delivering on their projects, to growing their businesses, to being productive human beings. What I learned from those people is that sleep, 8 hours, this is a block of sleep you need to dedicate to that. At least an hour before bed, you need to have that, and usually an hour in the morning when you don't jump into social media. Social media, by the way, gotta be managed. Set the time when you check your social media, when you do your work, and if you work on your social media, on social media apps, then put that in your work buckets. And when you take time off for a lunch, take that time off, meditate, disconnect, have your lunch, and put your social media into your work buckets. Or maybe you go for a disconnected break and then right before going to work you check your messages, check your social media, put your phone away and start working if your work doesn't really involve a lot of social media. So 8 hours of sleep, have your 30 to 1 hour in the morning where you're not working, when you are not interacting with social media. Have a break in the middle of the day. Meditation especially works well for restoring certain neurotransmitters and brain chemicals that help you to go and feel like you have the capacity to go, helps you to feel motivated, right? So have that mid of the day break without your phone. That is very important. And then at the end of the day, have that hour of disconnected time. And again, you can combine it. You can combine some breaks with exercise, but again, just enough, not too much, because over exercising will also drain the same energy system because it is a stressor. And if you overdo it, it will backfire and make you burn out faster, not slower, right? It will not help you with your recovery. And things like yoga, that is, I don't think you can overdo yoga. It's not a danger for most of us, unless you really so into yoga that you start doing all the time. But that's a conversation, maybe for some other day. So burnout is actually very simple. And guys, don't talk about some metaphorical boundaries around your work and life. No, realize you have 24 hours just like everyone else. Put everything in time buckets because it's real physical constraint. And don't allow your work to bleed into your rest hours. And if you're constantly running late on your projects, then figure out why and understand that you're still a human being and figure out how to work more effectively. Maybe stop checking your social media all that often during work. It helps a lot of people, right? You have time constraints, put your work in one of the buckets and keep it there. And if you're not able to do everything you need to do in that bucket, then please get in touch and let's have a conversation and let's have a call. The link is in the show notes to help you to figure out how to be more productive at work. And let's see where you have ineffective patterns that drain your energy, that drain your work. And that's why you might be running late on your projects. And that's why you feel like you can't really put the work in the bucket and restrict the time dedicated to it. Instead, it's always like bleeding into your life, into your family life, into your relationships, into your exercise, into your sleep, everywhere. That is a bad time management. That's all it is, guys. It has nothing to do with some metaphorical inability to set boundaries for yourself or other people. You just never had those buckets, those time slots that you dedicate to specific things. So reach out, schedule our call. Let's help me to figure out better patterns, better protocols for your day so things don't bleed into each other's buckets and so you don't burn out. And the upside of all of that, you feel productive and motivated every single day because the state of motivation, it's simple as state of your energy being up, your emotions managed, your physical health managed. Humans are the most motivated animal on earth naturally, but only when we are taken care of physically, when you have your mental health on point, when you have your rest on point, and then you're the most motivated motherfucker out there. That's why we basically run the planet. So schedule our call. Let's figure out your ineffective patterns and why you might be having troubles with burnout and motivation. And as usual, guys, till next time, eat better daily.